How could you describe Kostas Sloukas to NBA fans? Imagine Kobe Bryant in 2006 after spending 10 years with the Lakers, having already won multiple titles, leaving LA to go play for the Celtics and then leading them to a title. Would Kobe Bryant still be a Laker legend, or would he be the biggest traitor in basketball history? Well, Kostas Sloukas did something similar, but on 100 times the scale, because the rivalry between Panithanaikos and Olympiacos in Greece makes the Lakers and Celtics seem like best friends. And Kostas Sloukas learned that the hard way. This story defined the 2023-24 EuroLeague season, and believe me, it's insane. So Kostas Sloukas is one of the greatest guards in EuroLeague history, and another European star that despite having options, chose to never play in the NBA. Kostas Sloukas joined Olympiacos when he was 17 years old. In 2008, he was a young player who had to wait a long time for his opportunity. During this time period, rivals Panithanaikos were a dynasty. They had won 11 of the last 12 Greek league titles. Olympiacos didn't have time for young players, and Patrick Beverley, who was a part of that team in 2010, talked about what it was like for him and Sloukas trying to get playing time.
The guy who was the MVP for Panithanaikos, Sloukas, we was on the same team, Olympiacos. Didn't play at all. Right? Didn't play at all. I didn't play damn near the whole season. I played a couple games, here, rode the bench the whole season.
Kostas Sloukas played with some great players. Vasilios Spanoulis, Mios Teodosic, Papaloukas, Papa Nicolau, Papa Petru. He learned from winners, and it wasn't long before he started winning himself. In 2011, he was the best young player in the Greek league, and 2012 was a very special year. Not only did Olympiacos finally win the Greek league, but they made the EuroLeague final too, and down 19 points to CSKA Moscow, completed one of the greatest comebacks in Final Four history. In 2013, Olympiacos did it again. They returned to the Final Four, defeated CSKA for the second year in a row, and to then beat Real Madrid, the most successful EuroLeague club, in the final. Kostas Sloukas scored 11 points. He was a two-time champion, but far from the star of this Olympiacos team. As you can see by the numbers, Sloukas was a role player, and this was Spanoulis' team. He was the MVP of EuroLeague, but the idea was Sloukas would be his successor. It was supposed to be his team. It wasn't until 2015 when Sloukas entered his prime. That season, he was first team All-Greek League and won the domestic title again. Olympiacos made the final of EuroLeague, but this time Real Madrid got their revenge and destroyed the Greek giants in the final. Shockingly, that summer, after 8 years with the club, Kostas Sloukas left. Part of it was money and part of it was for sporting project. The legendary Coach O had been a fan of Sloukas when coaching in Greece and was able to lure him away from the Reds. Sloukas spent 5 years in Turkey. He won 3 Turkish Super League championships, 5 domestic cups, but the craziest thing was the 2017 EuroLeague playoffs. Fenerbahce had a great team. EuroLeague MVP Jan Vesely, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Nikola Kalinic, Anthony Bennett, James Nunali, and guess who they faced in the EuroLeague final? Olympiacos. Kostas Sloukas went up against his former club, and the Turkish team won 80-64, making Kostas Sloukas a 3-time EuroLeague champion. But defeating his former club made him not so popular among Olympiacos fans. That was until 2020, when Kostas Sloukas surprisingly returned to Olympiacos. Everybody was delighted to have him back, and by 2020, Sloukas was considered one of the best shooting guards in Europe. He was first team All-EuroLeague in 2019, and in his return, Sloukas said his goal was to make the impossible possible again, alluding to winning the EuroLeague championship with Olympiacos once more. His first season back was the last year of Vasilios Spanoulis, and the symbolic passing of the torch happened. Things started to get really interesting in 2021, because Olympiacos were now a serious team, and a big reason for that was the emergence of Sasha Vezenkov. He became the system in Olympiacos, and Sloukas was his main running mate. Thomas Walkup was a defensive player of the year. They had vets like Papa Nicolau, Shaq McKissick. This team ran through Greece, with a 23-1 regular season record, and swept Panathinaikos 3-0 in the league finals. Sloukas was finals MVP. Olympiacos also beat them to win the Greek Cup too, sweeping all domestic honours, and they were looking to complete the perfect season by winning the EuroLeague title too. Olympiacos were one of the best in Europe, finishing with the second best record. In the playoffs they faced Monaco and EuroLeague all-time leading scorer Mike James. This series went 5 games and the elimination game was so hyped that Kevin Durant and Emma Stone pulled up to what they described as the apocalypse. The atmosphere was unbelievable, it was a close game and Kostas Sloukas rose to the occasion. Olympiacos were back in the Final Four. And as you can see by the celebrations, they all believed this was their year, which made what happened in the Final Four against Anadolu Efes absolutely heartbreaking. Kostas Sloukas made a big play, finding his teammate in the pick and roll, thinking he'd sent the game to overtime. And then this happened.
Less than 6, Micic keeps the ball in his hands. Clock is running out, Micic rises, if it goes, he'll win it! Vasilija Micic with the troika!
Vasilij Micic, the EuroLeague MVP, ended their season there and then with that shot. After losing in such heartbreaking fashion, it was a hard summer for Olympiacos, but they came back for the 2022-23 season more motivated than ever, with one goal in mind: to win the EuroLeague championship. Olympiacos were the best team in Europe. They went undefeated in the Greek League regular season, and the only game they lost domestically was in the finals, in which they won in a gentleman's sweep. In EuroLeague, they were the #1 seed, made it back to the Final Four and destroyed Monaco in the semi-final. Everybody thought this team was a lock to win the title, and for the second year in a row, Olympiacos had the chance to complete a historic treble. Standing in their way was Real Madrid. This was one of the all-time EuroLeague classic games, and the ending was unbelievable. Olympiacos were just seconds away from the title, and then Sergio Yuri did this.
Working against foul, beats him with the dribble, pulls up at the elbow, high arcing James, good!
A title-winning shot with 4 seconds to go, but Kostas Sloukas had the chance to do him one better. He got the shot off. It would have been a walk-off championship-winning buzzer beater, one of the greatest shots in history, but he missed, and Olympiacos lost in heartbreaking fashion for the second straight year. Despite being the best team in Greece and probably in Europe over these 2 seasons, both times in the Final Four, they lost in the cruelest fashion imaginable. But little did Kostas Sloukas know that that shot right there would be the last he ever took as an Olympiacos player, because what happened summer 2023 was one of the craziest transfer sagas in the history of EuroLeague. Kostas Sloukas did the unthinkable and left Olympiacos, who he'd played with for over a decade, to join their rivals Panathinaikos. In Greece, they called this the rivalry of the eternal enemies. It started with the soccer teams and carried on with the basketball. The BBC described it as Europe's maddest rivalry. These two clubs are both based in Athens, represent different people within the capital. Each team attracts a different fan base for cultural, religious and social reasons. They've both dominated Greek sports for a century, and they have the craziest, most passionate fan bases in Europe. These clubs absolutely hate each other. So when Kostas Sloukas made his move and said, quote, "People say I look good in green,"
but people say that looks also good on me, green.
His legacy in Olympiacos was completely destroyed. He was removed from the team's group chat.
How fast did y'all kick him out of the team group chat? Did it say Kostas Sloukas has left the group? Or did y'all just start a whole new group chat? Because I know it's one or the other.
Kostas Sloukas has been removed from the group chat. I think that's the notification that
Players he'd played with for his entire career for club and country turned their back on him, and the Olympiacos Ultras made a formal statement saying that Sloukas had promised he wouldn't join PAO, not even for 10 million euros. They called him a liar, a traitor, and that he'd been plotting with their enemies all along and pretending to be a part of their family. Fans were obviously hurt that they'd came so close to winning the title back-to-back years, and then their most experienced player, somebody who was supposed to love the club, not only left, but left them for the other side. At the time, the transfer had very mixed reviews. Some Olympiacos fans were happy to see him leave. Sloukas was 33 years old, seeking a long-term contract, and he was already in the bad books following his performance in the championship game, not just because he missed the last shot, but for going 2 of 7 and scoring just 6 points. No Olympiacos fan was worried about him joining Panathinaikos. From a basketball perspective, they had just finished with the second worst record in EuroLeague, lost 13 consecutive games to Olympiacos, and the gap between the two teams was huge. And while Panathinaikos fans celebrated getting one up and weakening their rivals, signing Sloukas to a 4-year deal until he's 37 years old wasn't exactly the easiest sell for a rebuilding team. But coach Ataman had a plan. He'd won 2 EuroLeague championships with Anadolu Efes and took on the daunting challenge to rebuild Panathinaikos as a European powerhouse. Ataman insisted on bringing Sloukas to the team, with the idea in mind of repeating his very successful formula in Turkey, where he paired Vasilij Micic, a proven experienced European guard, with Shane Larkin, a former NBA guard, to make the best backcourt in EuroLeague. At Panathinaikos, Sloukas was Micic, the pick and roll facilitator who can collapse the defense, score at the rim as a taller guard, and be a closer. None, like Larkin, was all about getting buckets. The similarities between Micic and Sloukas is quite comparable. Before becoming a 2-time MVP at Efes, Micic was a solid role player at Zalgiris, but he wasn't the lead guard. Similarly, Sloukas, a bit like Ginobili, was one of the best players at Olympiacos, but was a sixth man for most of his career, and partially due to his defensive deficiencies. At Panathinaikos, Sloukas was promised a bigger role as the lead guard, which he said factored majorly into his decision. As fate would have it, Panathinaikos' first game of the EuroLeague season was against Olympiacos, and the perfect moment of revenge presented itself. Score tied 74-74, and guess who ended up with the ball in their hands for the game-winning shot? Sloukas had the chance to start the season in his first EuroLeague game with Panathinaikos with a game winner against his former club. He missed the shot, and Olympiacos went on to win in overtime. Panathinaikos started the season off slow, with a 5-8 record. Compare that to the champions Real Madrid, who were 12-1 during this time period. Panathinaikos were a new team though, and it took them some time with their new coach and whole new roster to figure things out. And when the year turned in 2024, they won 9 of their next 12 games, and by this point the narrative had changed. Panathinaikos were climbing up the standings, and with one of the top ranked defenses and offensive during this streak, they were looking like a Final Four team. They had big wins towards the end of the regular season against both Barcelona and league leaders Real Madrid, but were soon humbled March 14th against Olympiacos. As you can imagine, playing against his former team in their building for the first time in EuroLeague, Sloukas returned to a hostile welcome from the home fans. Olympiacos won this game 71-65. Sloukas was held to just 7 points, and yet again lost to the Reds. But Panathinaikos finished the season strong, with the second best record in EuroLeague, finishing with a 23-11 record. However, this EuroLeague regular season was one of the most competitive ever, with just one game separating them from Barcelona, Olympiacos and Monaco in the standings. The EuroLeague playoffs started and Panathinaikos were tested facing Israeli giants Maccabi Tel Aviv, the 7th seed who'd qualified for the play-in tournament. This was no easy series, as Maccabi stole game 1 on the road after Sloukas turned the ball over on the final play.
Didn't find a route to the rim and threw it away. And in the process might have thrown away game 1.
In game 2, Sloukas bounced back, scoring 29 points on 12 of 16 shooting, and Pau tied the series at 1 each. Game 3 was a must-win for both teams and it went down to the wire. Lorenzo Brown put Maccabi up 2 at the line, and Kendrick Nunn missed the free ball to win it for Pau. But there was only one man to blame for this loss, and it was Kostas Sloukas, who scored 0 points in game 3. Down 2-1, Panathinaikos' backs were against the wall. They needed to win both games to qualify for the Final Four. They were down 7 with 6 minutes to go on the road, but Kendrick Nunn came to the rescue and saved the season, forcing an elimination game with bucket after bucket down the stretch. He had 27 points, but Sloukas' contribution didn't go unnoticed. He had 20 points, 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Game 5 at home was legendary. A spot in Berlin awaited the winning team. Sloukas came out a man on a mission, scoring 12 points in the first half, and in the fourth quarter, none sealed the deal. 13 of his 27 points were in the fourth. Panithanaikos won by double digits in the end and progressed to the Final Four for the first time in 12 years. The arena erupted. Fans swarmed the court in the thousands, and those die-hard fans really started to believe they could win a title. In the Final Four, they faced Fenerbahce, the underdogs, who had sent home EuroLeague MVP Mike James and NBA All-Star Kemba Walker in the playoffs to get here. This game was absolutely chaos. Panithanaikos got off to a great start early on, but Fenerbahce came firing back, and it was a close game going into the fourth. Panithanaikos stepped it up a gear on defense, and ended up winning comfortably in the end, booking their place in the final, where they'd face the winners of the other Final Four game featuring Real Madrid or Olympiacos. Either way, this was going to be a personal matchup for Sloukas. A Greek derby in the championship game of EuroLeague would have gone down in history, but a rematch against Real Madrid, who defeated Sloukas in the final the year before, was equally as exciting. Real Madrid, as expected, defeated Olympiacos and went into the final as huge favourites. They just set the record for most wins in a EuroLeague regular season. They were undefeated in the playoffs and everybody expected them to repeat as champions. But Panithanaikos were confident and believed they could pull off a miracle. And Kostas Sloukas had one game to fulfill the ultimate redemption arc, and he made the most of this opportunity and produced one of the greatest championship game performances in basketball history. He turned it on when his team needed it most. In the second quarter, Pau trailed by 14 points. Madrid were looking unstoppable, and it seemed like it was going to be a blowout. But Kostas Sloukas kept Pau in it, scoring time and time again. He hit a huge mid-range at the end of the half to give his team a boost and belief.
Setting him up with the dribble, pulls up from the top of the key and drills it.
You can't do it any better, man.
Execution from Kostas Sloukas.
He carried that momentum into the third, hitting a free ball to start the half, and with the game close in the fourth quarter, with 2 points to separate the teams, Kostas Sloukas never needed more, delivered, hitting 2 huge back-to-back three-pointers.
Oh! Big bucket from long range!
To put Panithanaikos up 8.
Sloukas pull up trifecta and he bottoms it!
And Pau turned what was a close game into a blowout, and against all odds, won the EuroLeague Championship. Kostas Sloukas had 24 points on 100% shooting from the field and 100% shooting from three. For the first time in his career, he was MVP of the Final Four. This was a legacy-defining game for Kostas Sloukas. The all-time leader in Final Four points had never had a singular career-defining performance, but in this game he produced just that. A year onwards from missing the championship shot, he turned in the perfect performance to become a champion for the 4th time in his career. This game cemented him among the greats. It elevated his status among the greatest in history. He had proven every doubter wrong. He left the best team in EuroLeague for one of the worst teams, and in his first season in green, captained them to the promised land and won the championship for the first time in over a decade. He did so by defeating one of the greatest teams in EuroLeague history. Throughout the season, Real Madrid were being labelled the EuroLeague's first NBA team, but their season will always be tainted because they were denied the title, and Kostas Sloukas was the main reason for that. The celebrations and championship parade was historic. Kostas Sloukas, who was once hated by these fans, was now one of the biggest legends in their history. Like Spanolas before him, he had switched sides and made himself a legend in the other half of Athens. But if you think the story ends there and that's all there was to Sloukas' revenge, you're mistaken, because domestically in Greece, Panithanaikos still had a Greek league title to win. In Europe, winning the EuroLeague Championship is the pinnacle. It's the biggest title in the continent. But if you don't also win your domestic title, it is somewhat tainted because you're not champions of your own country. Olympiacos with Sloukas had won 2 titles in a row, and in 2024 they were looking to three-peat. Early in the season in the Greek Cup final, Olympiacos defeated Panithanaikos for their 7th straight domestic title. In Greece, Olympiacos were still kings of the country, so when Panithanaikos faced Olympiacos in the Greek League finals, both teams were desperate to win for different reasons. Olympiacos were extra motivated to win not just for the three-peat, but because PAO had just won the EuroLeague title, and PAO were desperate to win to end their rivals' dominance domestically. In a best-of-5 series, it looked as if Olympiacos were going to have the last laugh, and took a 2-0 lead in the series. All they needed was to win one more game to sweep their rivals, and they'd be Greek champions again. But Panithanaikos won not once, but 2 elimination games home and away to force a winner-takes-all Game 5. This final was a classic. It went down to the final minute. Shaq McKissick scored to make it a 1-point game with 59 seconds to go. Then Kendrick Nunn airballed a free at the end of the shot clock, giving Olympiacos the ball and a chance to win the title on the road. And I'll let you watch the final plays. Down 1, William Goss missed the go-ahead mid-range to give Olympiacos the lead, but they'd get another chance. PAO went 2 for 2 at the line, meaning an Olympiacos free ball would force overtime. They took a timeout, advanced the ball up the court, failed to inbound the ball, got a 5-second violation, and that was all she wrote. Panithanaikos had done it. From 0-2 down, they'd won 3 straight games and completed a historic reverse sweep to win the series 3-2. Kostas Sloukas led all scorers in the final again with 29 points. He scored 25 points in the first half on 9 of 10 shooting. Sloukas was MVP of the Greek League, and Panithanaikos were both EuroLeague and Greek League champions. It was almost the perfect season, and Kostas Sloukas finally spoke and taunted his former team in his comments post-game, saying, quote, "I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart for their arrogance, lack of respect that the owner and head coach showed me at Olympiacos. They opened the door of Panithanaikos. I saw people who were thirsty and believed in me from the first moment and supported me in difficult times. For me, this is the greatest vindication." Vindicated Kostas Sloukas was. Mike James, the current MVP and EuroLeague all-time leading scorer, called for Sloukas to be in the GOAT conversation. The narrative has completely changed, and now when people talk about the greatest Greek players in history, they say Diamantis, Kalafis, Spanoulis, and now Kostas Sloukas. And maybe one day, if he can deliver a title with their country, Giannis Antetokounmpo too. But regardless, the 2023-24 season was all about Kostas Sloukas. He's the main character in this season's story, and what a story it was. If you guys have made it up to this point and enjoyed and want to see more EuroLeague videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm sure you'll enjoy this video on your screen right now. Click it to watch that. Share your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Do you think this is the biggest betrayal in basketball history? If so, let me know. And on that note, it's DKM signing out. Until next time, and peace.